at him, he's physically imposing. His body's ready for the NBA right now. Defensive philosophies, understanding the coverages, all those things that you were talking about with Mick Cronin, I think translates well for Adem Bona to maybe find a way. Maybe it's a two-way contract to begin with, but then find a way on a roster at some point.
Yeah, he mentioned to me when I talked to him that he had the labrum issue a year ago, and he basically kind of learned how to use his right hand during that, and that I think he saw a little bit of an increase in his free throw percentage.
You know, one of the things with that too also, and we all know, no one that's going to be playing today is going to be drafted to be a starter. And so the thing is what is your role? Can you accept your role and play to that role? So when we talk about the fouling of Adem Bona, he's not going to be a guy that's going to be on the floor, especially early in his career, for 20, 25 minutes.
Well, and I think that's what we talk about this draft. We focus on the fact of the lack of star power at the top of this draft. But to me, when I look at this draft, I think there's 20, 25 guys that are going to get drafted here in June that are going to be 7 to 10-year vets in the NBA in their role. Now, the difficult part, to your point, Corey, is that so many of these guys have been stars from the first time they touched a basketball in their hand. And do they understand the sacrifices that it takes and the acceptance of the role that they'll need to have in order to have longevity at that next level?
And let me tell you, from a personal level, that's difficult to do.
Yeah.
I was a star my entire life. In my first game in San Antonio, I never took my warm-up off. I was a spectator.
Yeah.
And so to be able to see that, and it was difficult, especially during my rookie year, accepting that role, knowing that I felt like I was just as good or better than anyone on the floor, even though in reality I was not. But it's difficult to understand that, especially as a young person.
That's a smart play by Adem Bona right there. Like, here you are, and you're at the three-point line. It gets kicked out to you. You know that's not your shot. So what do? You hand off, and you set a great screen, and you open up a wide-open look for your teammate.
All right, as they take a timeout, we're going to go to a quick break. More scrimmage when we get back to the 2024 NBA Draft Combine.
Bronny James will enter the 2024 NBA Draft.
Why not? I don't believe Bronny is built for college. He's ready right now.
It's going to be a journey influenced by LeBron to some degree, whether it be negatively or positively.
At the end of the day, I just want Bronny to have his own journey, his own lane until he finds his exit.
There's LeBron James Jr., LeBron James Sr., and the Lakers have a few things to figure out this offseason. LeBron James, one of the free agents on that squad. When it comes to the Lakers, Bobby, what exactly do you think that they should do in this 2024
Well,
NBA draft?
it's all going to be dependent on certainly LeBron's option, which is June 29th. It's a $49 million player option. New Orleans has until June 1st to defer that pick until next year. The likelihood is that they will have the 17th and the 55th pick in the draft here. But this team is win now, right? This is a win now team as far as when you have him and Anthony Davis, and now you got to go out and hire a new head coach. So you're waiting on the LeBron decision. Certainly you can find some young players in the draft, but you have to be content. Was last year good enough, or was last year as good as it was going to be? Remember, AD and LeBron played the most games together since the two of them have been together since 2019.
Plus 4 wins year to year. That's all it was with all those games played. And to your point, you look at the Western Conference and you see the youthful movement up at the top, whether it's the T-Wolves with Ant and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Thunder being younger than even some of the college teams that Corey and I cover on a consistent basis. I mean, to me, the concern would be if you're the Lakers is, yes, of course, it's LeBron James. You're reinvesting. You want to re-sign him. You want the box office. But the roster is constructed now. I don't see any way that roster breaks the top 3 or 4 of the Western Conference with the way that the Western Conference is stacked up right now.
We haven't even talked about Memphis.
Yeah.
Memphis, who was in the lottery, and certainly Houston's going to get better, and who knows what happens in San Antonio with Victor. You've got 4, 8, 35, 48 in the draft. You got a boatload of other draft assets. You can go out and get a player, maybe know who you are, do the little things here. I think you're right. I mean, these are designed for guards. I think the one criticism I would make over this last couple of days here is I think they could have done a little bit of a better job as far as balancing the teams out a little bit, as far as focusing on guard play a little bit more. During the weekend at the G League Elite Camp, it was guard heavy.
Yeah.
I think one guard from that group, Boogie Ellis, wound up getting called up here. So guard play you have to have the right point guards. You got to have the right point guards, or you're going to get lost here.
Yeah.
But that raises a concern with me, Bobby, just from the simple fact that the point guard position is becoming less and less. I won't say important.
Well,
That's
you'll
not
say,
the right
well, how
word.
about Phoenix? Phoenix is a good example as far as, everybody's saying Phoenix needs a point guard. But the majority of it is that KD and Booker and Beal have the ball in their hands a lot.
And we'll talk about that when we come back, because I think that's a great conversation, because I disagree with the many that say they need a point guard. They need a facilitator. There's a difference between the two.
I just
Corey
like
Alexander
Jurisic
disagreeing.
getting a little finish at the rim.
Never heard of that. All right, we're going to go to break. Last year was also a Frenchman in Victor Wembanyama. We'll see if he's able to do it again.
The most French I know is Le Poisson, Le Poisson.
You also know Oui Oui.
Yeah, but the Little Mermaid is what really taught me the most French.
Is that from The Little Mermaid?
Yes.
Don't remind me of that movie. I watched it 1,000 times, and Oak Hill was the only thing
There's
that
my
we had
guy,
on
guys.
VHS.
Oh, I was like, why?
Jurisic.
Big Little Mermaid guy.
Jurisic has moved well without the ball early, got it to dunk. That time, got to the corner, ran to the corner in transition, had his feet set, was catch ready.
And Jurisic at 6'8" is a guy that will play with the ball in his hands. We showed him show off his passing ability yesterday, the behind-the-back pass to the three in the corner, but a guy that can play with the ball in his hands. And when we talk about facilitators, if you look at the reigning world champion, their facilitator is a 7-footer, right? We talk about the Orlando Magic. Their facilitator is a 6'10" guy. You go and you look at different, again, everywhere for the last 21 seasons that LeBron James has been, he's been the facilitator on that team.
Well, you even look at how this Denver-Minnesota series has changed a little bit. What Michael Malone has allowed is Aaron Gordon to bring the ball up, to kind of give pressure off Jamal Murray here. So you're looking at a 6'9" facilitator. So the day of the old John Stockton, Jason Kidd type point guard.
Careful calling me old, Bobby.
Hey, I'm with you.
Corey's like, I played against him. I played against him.
Yeah, the day and age of a player, averaging 10 or 11 assists is a little bit different. You might get that more from a Jokic type player.
Well, and go to the college game within that. Like, one of the things that Gonzaga has done so well over the years is it's empowered their bigs to bring the ball up the floor. And this is going to lead me back to the discussion you wanted to have, Corey, as we went to commercial break. Chet Holmgren used to bring the ball up all the time when he was in Spokane.
Yes.
Drew Timme brought the ball up. Kelly Olynyk brought the ball up. And what that often created was mismatches in their offense that allowed it to get into the flow in which we see Gonzaga operate at the collegiate level. To your point now, going back a couple of years ago, because I always love paying off a good tease, and you had a good tease that you wanted to go back to.
Oh, let's go back to it. We talked about the difference between Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, and Jabari Smith. Now, when we were here, Bobby, in May of, I guess that's 2022, all the talk was Jabari Smith was the guy. He was the #1 guy. Now, you can attest to, I'm here standing on the desk at this point, Christine. I'm up on top.
Yeah,
Paolo Banchero is the best guy. He's the best guy because he's a playmaker. That's what the NBA, you have to have one of those guys. It doesn't necessarily mean a point guard, but a playmaker, a facilitator, someone who makes his teammates better. And because of their ability to not only score, but pass, they become de facto, whether it's the point forward, point center, as we see in Jokic, or a point guard.
Yeah, I go back to that draft. I remember that draft very well. And it's funny to me, Bobby, like we fall in love, like comps. Like I did a bunch of comps. We've talked about that. We've laughed about some of them and all that stuff. But like, so often we make irrational comps. Like Jabari Smith, like, oh, he's 6'10" and he can shoot, so therefore he must be Kevin Durant.
And you always go to, who is the
One of the
hot guy
greatest.
in the NBA at that time?
Well, even like, a good example is Reed Shepherd from Kentucky. And, you're doing research and you're calling, college teams and coaches, and they said, give me a comp. And it was like Dante DiVincenzo. And for some people, they would be like, wait a minute, like that's DiVincenzo went in the teens and Shepherd's a top 4 or 5 pick. And I'm like, no, like the ability, what Dante can do defensively, the ability to make a shot. I know he struggled a little bit in lastly in this series here, but for him, those are kind of, the safe, like when Bronny James talked to the media, and he said this to me last week.